Joining us now, Joe Morrissey from the law firm Morrissey. As you know, fighting for you every day, was also a former candidate for Richmond mayor and also a long-term serving House of Delegates member. He was also Commonwealth's attorney, and he knows a little bit about Virginia politics. Joe, good to have you.
John, good to be with you this morning.
Joe, I want to get to this gubernatorial race here on the Democratic side. The Washington Post poll the other day has this thing tied. I think that really bodes well for the so-called challenger in this race, Perriello. I'm going to play a debate clip from a week ago on Sunday on Exchange here and kind of get your take on the whole thing. Here's a debate clip from last week from Tom Perriello and Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam.
You know, I don't think people are concerned who I voted for 17 years ago. And what's more, when I was asked the question, I told the truth. That's important for voters across the Commonwealth of Virginia. You know, in 2009, Mr. Perriello made a statement that he was really a libertarian at heart, and the only reason that he switched to being a Democrat was so that he could run for Congress. He also, I've got it, I'll show it to you after the debate. He also bragged while he was on Fox News, of all things, that he was proud to have voted with the Republicans over 60% of the time. So people that live in glass houses shouldn't be throwing stones, because sometimes the glass, when it breaks, can get very sharp. Now, the Affordable Care Act. I will tell you, as a doctor, there are good things about the Affordable Care Act. No more pre-existing conditions, keeping our children on our policy until they're 26 years old, the emphasis that's placed on access to women's reproductive health care, the emphasis on mental health care, the emphasis on preventive care. There are good things. So rather than say, let's repeal and replace, let's have a plan on the table. Let's bring people together and say, what's in the best interest of the Commonwealth of Virginia and this country? So to just say repeal and replace is not the answer. We need to make sure that all Virginians have access to affordable and quality health care. That's why there's no better time than right now for a doctor to be at the table and make sure that that happens.
So there was Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam going on offense finally. Joe Morrissey, what do you make of this whole thing?
I think it's rather quite simple, and it boils down to this. Perriello, part of his campaign message is this. Ralph Northam is really a Republican in Democrats' clothing. He's been that way since he joined the state Senate and then ran for lieutenant governor. Oh, go look at what he did. He didn't just vote for George Bush, Republican George Bush, once, but he voted for twice. See, can't you tell folks he's really a Republican? That's one of Perriello's messages. And that debate clip that you just shared showed North throwing a few punches himself. He got up and he said, well, wait a second, Tom, when you were in the House of Representatives for one term, you voted Republican more often than you voted Democrat, and I think he got some mileage from this. But let me handicap the race like this, okay? Here's what Perriello wants to say. He's got a 4-point message that he repeats over and over and over again. And I think he's gaining some traction. One, what I just said, Ralph Northam is really a Republican. Number two, I'm an outside rebel. I'm against the establishment. I'm the Bernie Sanders guy. That rings true with a certain number of Democratic poll base. Number three, I'm the anti-big energy guy. I'm against Appalachian Power. I'm against Dominion Power. Vote because they're screwing the consumers. Vote for me. And then, you know, when he's got some little bit, I'm really pro-choice. And that's his message. But here is the problem for Perriello. It's a Democratic primary where the traditional, base of, really hardcore Ds are coming out. You may see 12% statewide turnout in a Democratic primary. And those folks are really the normal, everyday, go to Democratic town hall meeting folk. And they tend to be supporting Northam. In fact, the entire establishment is supporting Northam. So in order for Perriello to win, he not only has to expand that 4-point message, but he's got to expand the base. He's got to bring more people to that Democratic primary on June 12th, and that is a $64,000 question.
I think you nailed it, Joe Morrissey, because the Northam campaign is telling me there's going to be a very low turnout, and a low turnout makes them the winner. The Perriello campaign telling me the opposite, that it's going to be a big turnout. People are energized. Big turnout makes them the winner. Here's the only concern I've got with going this way for Northam is when your campaign is based on nobody showing up, I really think you're in trouble. And, we've seen that where people say, oh, nobody's going to turn out, therefore we win. Bigger turnout helps the other guy. I mean, you listen to this exchange here, and just as an observer myself, I'm thinking to myself, where's the Ralph Northam energy? I mean, other than your establishment Democrat that's, you come out, you vote in primaries, I just don't see the enthusiasm or the energy for him.
Well, you might not see that enthusiasm, but listen to what you just said. You said, other than the Democratic base, the folks that normally show up at town hall meetings, that normally vote in primaries, where's his support? Stop right there. That's all he needs.
Right.
Remember, the folks have to realize this is not a 40 or 50% turnout. It's a 12% turnout.
Right.
So all he needs is those hardcore Ds to come out and vote. And they appear to be, from what I hear, to be backing Northam, and
right.
a lot of the office holders, seem to be supporting Perriello. Now, here's the other thing, and I think you and I maybe broached this in a private conversation or at an earlier date. There's a lot of students that would support Perriello. They are the same students that came out in mass to support Bernie Sanders in the primary. But remember, their students were in school at the time. Okay? Like take VCU. They all registered at VCU. But then when they went home to Alexandria, they went home to McLean, they went home to Virginia Beach or into other states, okay? They don't vote.
Right.
The June 12th primary, students go home. You are not going to see that massive student turnout that otherwise would be supporting Perriello. So that's another potential problem.
Yeah, you're right about that, is they're not going to be there, right? The students are gone by the time the Democratic and Republican primary hits Virginia. All the students go home. Now, the other thing you can say is even with all those students on Super Tuesday in March, Clinton carried it 61% to 39%. So even with everybody there, Bernie Sanders only got 38.5 or 39%. Yeah. So that's the other thing he's up against. All right, I want to move on. You mentioned Dominion Power and Appalachian Power. All of a sudden, Joe Morrissey, all of a sudden, a lot of people jumping on both sides of the aisle, jumping on Dominion Power. This has kind of come out of the blue. They don't like the pipeline, some people, but now they're jumping on Dominion Power as the great enemy of the people. Even though you look at their electric rates as compared to other states, they're down, they're lower. And of course, Frank Wagner negotiated that deal. But all of a sudden, Dominion Power now becoming a lot of politicians' punching bag, yet they all receive big dollars from Dominion Power. What's happening here, Joe?
Okay, I think I got a pretty good bird's eye view of what is taking place. It's May of 2017 right now. Let's go back to the winter of 2015. I'm sitting in the Virginia General Assembly as a member of the House, and there is a bill that was introduced that was proposed by Dominion Power. Here's what the bill said. We, Virginia Power, will freeze our base rate for X number of years so long as the State Corporation Commission doesn't have the option of reviewing any overcharges which would result in a refund to consumers. That was the bill, okay? Now, first of all, let's look at Who proposed the bill? Dominion, okay? And their lobbyists were enforced. Now, I was one of the very few people that opposed that bill. And I said on the floor, you are, I said for various members, if we freeze their rate, we're only freezing the base rate, which is 50% of your bill. The other 50% of the bill can still go up. Also, every year that the State Corporation Commission reviewed the overcharges, it resulted in tens of millions of dollars being refunded to the consumers. If you are taking that option away from the State Corporation Commission, that means those customers don't get that refund. So if you drilled down, pun intended, then you would realize that it was a major boon for Dominion Power. I wouldn't support it. And many of my Democratic colleagues then, they did support the bill. Most of the Republicans supported it, but it was bad for Virginians. And now I think that's before the Supreme Court, whether or not you can take away that State Corporation Commission review. So what's going on now? Fast forward 2 years. Candidates are looking at Dominion as the bad guy. Well, first of all, they're a good, let's give them credit. They're a good corporate citizen, a lot of charitable endeavors. But the only thing that keeps, as Henry Howe said, the big boys honest is that review by the State Corporation Commission. Mm-hmm. Okay, not politicians. Take the politicians out of the equation. We all, including me, have received contributions from Dominion Power. Get the politicians out. Let that independent State Corporation review, and you're going to get overcharges returned to the people. And that's what I was in favor of. And now, look what's happening.
Well, it's going to be interesting because their argument is that rates are down from where they were. So there's not a groundswell of people upset because they get upset when their rates go up. It's been stable. Their electric rates aren't going up. So the noise is on the politician side. I'm not sure that it's on the populist side because nothing is happening to them. So what you say makes a lot of sense. We're going to see what plays out. I got a couple more minutes. Let's get to the Ed Gillespie campaign. He's going to be the nominee, I believe, on the Republican side. He's way ahead. Can he win in November, or are the Democrats going to win 9 straight state house runs?
Okay. The answer to your twofold question is yes, no. Yes, he's going to be the nominee. He's better funded. He's got a clearer message. He's leading in all the polls. He will be the the Republican nominee. The answer to your second question, I don't think so. I don't believe he wins in November. Remember, there's a tradition, with the exception of the McAuliffe campaign 3 years ago, there is a tradition. The party that is not in the White House wins the gubernatorial election the following year. It's a barometer on the White House. Accordingly, the Democrats would win in 2017, November 2017, because the Republicans and Trump are in the White House. That's the traditional view, and it's held forth in all the past elections, save the one with McAuliffe, and that was a perfect storm for him.
Right.
So here's what's going to happen. Again, just Joe Morrissey's opinion. Massive turnout across the state in November of this year. It is more a reflection on Washington than on the two candidates for governor in Virginia. And there is, whether it's right or wrong, a tremendous amount of pent-up angst against the current Republican administration for a lot of different reasons that we don't have to go into right now. So very, very difficult for Gillespie to win in November, in my opinion.
So why do you think there's going to be a big turnout in November but a small turnout in June?
Yeah, well, that's always the way it is. In June, your kids are out of schools, you're planning vacation, you're at swim meets. People don't think of going to the polls in June. And, the turnouts, my goodness, for primaries are as low as 4%,
Yeah.
and generally as high as 12%.
Anemic.
And if people are listening right now, they're saying, Joe's got that wrong. No, 4% sometimes in primaries, high as of 12% compared to a normal 50, 60% turnout.
Yeah, look, facts don't lie, and to predict the future, you got to understand history. You've certainly done that. We're out of time, but I got to tell you this. And I say this all the time, bad things happen to good people. If you really need a great lawyer, you want to call Joe Morrissey. He's been serving in this area for a quarter century. He's won over 250 jury trials in the Richmond Metro. 250 jury trials. That is a huge number. There was also a time where he won 54 in a row. 54 in a row. That's like Joe DiMaggio hitting in 55 straight games. 54. It's an unbelievable number. I mean,
You're kind to say that, John. I appreciate that.
Nobody's ever going to touch that. It's like Joe Morrissey's like Joe DiMaggio, right? You're never going to touch him. But here's what you need to do is write his number down, 804-554-5885. 804-554-5885. 804-554-5885. Or you can look him up. Go to attorneyjoemorrissey.com. Hey, Joe, it's always great to have you on, man.
Me too. Thank you for having me, and happy belated Mother's Day to your bride.
And to Myrna as well. And we'll catch up soon, no doubt. Joe Morrissey, thanks for being with us.
You got it, John. Cheers.